Hi, I am Brad Siler with Pencil Log Pros. I'm the owner and president. We provide log cabin restoration services to Western Colorado and Utah.
You're watching Success, Motivation, and Inspiration, where we share interviews with incredible leaders who are crushing it in life and business.
Hey, welcome back to Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. We're on with Brad Siler today of Pencil Log Pros. Brad, it's good to see you again, man. How you doing?
Good. Good to see you, Curtis, as always.
You've led Pencil Log Pros for quite a while. Do you have a promise for the customer? Like, what's your basic promise in one line?
We deliver quality. I mean, that's it at any cost. The original slogan was, "We'll call you back," when we started the company. Obviously, contract, that's a big deal. It's kind of morphed into, we are providing top tier quality to our clients. We are the professional option. That's a good way to put it.
I love that. The other day, I saw an older woman was doing basically like a testimonial video about how you guys tuned up her house, the place that they've lived for years, and kind of a dream home. It's always cool seeing when customers are voluntarily getting on and leaving good feedback. I know you guys are massively booked out. How have you generated that amount of traffic?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I'd like to say there was an easy answer to that, but it's just like all things. It takes time. You really have to build a base and then just, you keep plugging away. And so we've been in business about 7, 8 years now. We certainly don't have the Cinderella story. We started off wondering when the next, kind of staring at the phone there for the next call to happen. And, that whole story that, we've all heard so many times. I think to get to where we're at right now it's just a game of consistency. I will deliver quality at any cost, right? That's kind of what our clientele, our customers come to expect. That plays out well in marketing and word of mouth. We have a footprint now in social media, of course, and Google Business, just like with all small businesses, right? It can't be understated how important that is. We really strive hard for those good reviews. We really strive hard, to have that reach to these clients, because, if you're sitting in Western Colorado and you're typing into your computer, I need restoration, I need work done to my log cabin, I need my name to come up. We've strived pretty hard organically to make that happen, right? Without having to pay a bunch of money to develop the SEO. Now we are and certainly engaged in that. We'd be foolish not to, but it's from the organic side of this. We've been able to create a pretty decent pipeline. Pretty decent. I would say a very healthy pipeline of clients coming in. That really, we're just filling a very unique, very special niche. There was a void there for a long time, and I think we were kind of able to come along and just tap directly into that.
There's probably half a dozen companies that could be mentioned as far as log home restoration. Pencil Log Pros is definitely the top echelon of when people are looking for quality, great craftsmanship, just doing a great job. You're probably not going to be the cheapest guy.
We are definitely the steak and lobster dinner. That's for sure. There's no doubt about that. That's what our clients are looking for.
When did you know that log homes were going to be your thing?
Back in 2013, my wife and I had purchased a cabin in the Ridgeway area, actually Dallas Divide. So that's kind of between Ridgeway and Telluride, Colorado. And the house was in disrepair and needed a ton of work done to it. We made about 25, 30 phone calls to different contractors, different trades in that area to try to get anybody to come out and have a look at this place. The reality was I had about 2 people out of all those calls call me back. One of them showed up and gave the wrong estimate, and the other one that I actually got on the phone with didn't even show up. So, and they purposely did not know if I had a $50,000 cabin or a $5 million cabin. They had no idea, and I purposely didn't tell them. And I thought, gosh, there must be a serious niche opportunity here. If this many contractors and this many trades don't even have to bother to call me back to see what I need. I didn't even, in most cases, receive, nothing, no contact. Like,
wow,
could have been ready to spend an absolute wheelbarrow full of money and they wouldn't have known. I mean, we didn't, but we needed something to, we needed something done. So I ended up doing a lot of the work to the log cabin myself. It turned out great. I had a buddy come help me out. We kind of stomped through the mud and made our way through it. And that was kind of like, cutting my teeth on doing some of this log cabin type work. So that's kind of the genesis story of how the roundabout way. The company didn't actually start till years later, but that was our first dabbling with log cabins.
Pencil Log Pros, the website, you guys have some incredible pictures up there, great reviews, some of that precision and the pursuit of perfection. that you've got from the military background probably helped a lot as far as turning Pencil Log Pros into being the top log home business, right?
Yeah, that's that's a huge part of it, and almost to the point where I kind of over time had to learn to turn the dial down a bit, right? Because I was just saying earlier, it's not as profitable, and this total pursuit of perfection. Log cabins are perfectly imperfect, right? And so I have to remember that. And in the early days, we strive very, very hard for perfection, but there's a good medium there, right? Where we're going to go above and beyond. We're going to deliver is absolutely incredible finished product every single time, but not to the point where I can hang out for months and months and months and try to make this thing a shiny new penny, because sometimes it just absolutely cannot be. But we've yet to have a dissatisfied customer with the finished product on the log cabin. So knock on wood there, but we're batting pretty strong with that.
Any service business, man, it's tough to have a business that doesn't have somebody trying to come back and get a discount by saying you did a bad job. But again, just seeing your reviews online, people love you. So you're probably, like you said, going over the top on perfection versus just trying to whip out a bunch of jobs real cheap.
We position us to be the professional option. When you don't take your 57 Chevy hot rod to Larry the Shade Tree mechanic. I mean, maybe you do, but most of us don't. When you hand me your American Dream log cabin, you're handing it to the right guy. You're giving this to a team that's going to take this very, very seriously, and we're going to give you exactly what you were looking for to restore this place to literally your vision. We are committed to that. That's not just some kind of So I don't even know if I've ever even given anybody that speech. Maybe I should, but. That's the point, right? Like you gave me your 57 Chevy, and I'm going to do what it requires to make that car run again and look absolutely gorgeous. Well, that's your cabin, and that's what we're bringing to the table. So.
People call you the face of log home restoration. What does that mean to you today?
Well, that's an honor. I don't know if I've heard that one too much, but I'll take it. We work really hard to get out in front and position ourselves from basically absolutely unknown to a company that's doing multiple seven figures. And I don't think that speaks as well to the growth of the company as it does the team I currently have in place. And people ask me all the time, like, what's your greatest accomplishment with the company? And everybody wants to go to the numbers or the money or the revenue or top line, whatever. It's actually the most important thing I would say is the team that I've been able to build around me for me, that's the biggest clue to success, right? Because we don't have a lot of attrition. Yeah. We have people that we send to training. We have people that are showing up every week. I'm not having the problems with the drama and everybody knows, the problem with labor in the trade industry right now. It's real, it's palpable, and everybody's suffering from it a bit, but we're not. We did for some years there, especially after COVID. I think everybody took some hits, but I try very hard to hire people and retain talent that is invested in what we're doing, that believes in what we're doing. We can crank out numbers, we can crank out revenue, we can say that we're just getting jobs done, but to have that team in place that I know they're going to show up on Tuesday mornings. We won't work Mondays, but on Tuesday mornings and be ready to go. And they're going to turn out a consistent, I love that word, consistent product every single week for the company. That's the thing that helps me sleep good at night, right? Knowing that that's the team I've got behind me. So.
Me and you met originally at a Christian men's retreat. I love just seeing the leadership, like that rising tide lifts all ships. You're bodybuilding, you're working out, you're eating clean, you're doing the right stuff to try to be a good man, good leader, a good example for the rest of your team. I know you've got some other good leaders on your team, but it's just cool to see that somebody's hiring you they've got a team that cares about the job, cares about doing it right.
Well, honestly, I'm fighting aging. I'm fighting getting older. I'm 48 now, and I want to keep this body and this brain going as long as I can, right? So that's just a constant thing. But the leadership, I'd be lying if I said the military did not instill a lot of leadership into me, whether I wanted it or not, whether I realized it or not at the time. But joining at a very young age and then being thrust into positions of a lot of responsibility in my early 20s, and a lot of consequence too, right? You're dealing with a lot of things in the military, and you're expected to perform. There's no question. There's no patting you on the back, and you know, if you didn't perform, if you didn't show up, if you didn't get it right, no one cared. And it was on your shoulders, or you were letting the team down. And I learned that really quick in the SWIC teams, in the special boat teams. And it's really unforgiving if you don't perform. So if you can't perform, you learn how to get up to speed really fast out there. And yeah, you're right. A rising tide lifts all ships. I love that. I live by that every day. I'm trying to bring energy to the team. We hold meetings, weekly meetings, trainings. I am engaged with the foreman on a daily basis. I reach out to my rank and file employees constantly and check on them and see how things are going. I believe in that stuff, man. And my energy is contagious. The foreman's energy is contagious. It really is. We're at a certain level, and it's almost expected at this point. If you're going to be around Brad, just know that he's high energy, man. These young guys, these 20-year-olds, these 30-year-olds, I think they see that in me, and I'd like to think a little bit of that is contagious back to them. So if you've ever been around me, and you have, you know right away, man, I'm trying to operate at a high level, and that's not even trying anymore. This is just how I like to live. It's who I am.
Talking about consistency, yeah, doing things in your life that make you the man you're supposed to be. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Now, every day. Yeah.
We had talked a few months back, and you had a product or either a product or equipment manufacturer was reaching out trying to get you to do some social media posts and stuff. Are you available to do stuff like that? Where if you've got maybe an adhesive manufacturer, a coatings manufacturer, some kind of special tool, would you be willing to get on and do some promotion for those products if they're great things that you're willing to use yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we really only use a couple different vendors. I kind of learned early on, it made more sense to learn and get comfortable with these crews and how to use certain products or certain brands. That way we're not constantly trying to reinvent the wheel, because every product does have its own nuance. And so I went ahead and I worked really hard to find the products that I like and I trust. And then basically just let's train on those. Let's apply those. Let's get really good with those products, and let's speak the language of those products. So that was kind of a no-brainer. Everything just kind of fell into place with my vendors, where, they know I'm out there using their products. They know I'm out there selling their products. It's not even hard, really, because I trust the products, right? So it's like, I'm an auto salesman. It's just, start talking about products for log homes, and it is a niche. It is a niche product. So we like to use Sashco products, Sashco Inc. out of Denver. They've been really good to us. And I don't even mean that in a sense of like, oh, you're getting free stuff or swag. No, not really. They make good products, and we put those on log cabins. And I walk away from that knowing you're not going to call me in 2 years and be like, what the heck is this? It's falling off my house, or it's, it doesn't look right, or whatever. When it comes to if the products I'm using are tough enough, or are they going to do what the manufacturer says they're going to do? I don't worry about that. And if I ever have a problem with that, I literally am on a first name basis with these people out in Denver, which I absolutely, a company that big, for me to pick up a phone and call and talk to a human being and go, hey, I've got a problem or a thing going on, or hey, what's your opinion? I just call for opinions sometimes. They're probably tired. They're probably tired of hearing from me, but actually, no, I don't talk to them that much. But occasionally, I just call and I have great conversations with the people that actually make and design these products, because they know I'm in the field using them. And so it's a good relationship, and that's all it is. It doesn't have to be anything more, anything less than that. It's just a good, workable relationship. And so, yeah. So your question was, yeah, absolutely. I have no problem advertising these products. I love using these products on social media. I love showing other people how to use these products. We get homeowners all the time. They're going to come out to our yard here in Grand Junction and just meet with me and say, hey, I want to sink my log cabin myself. I want to change my log cabin myself. I even had a guy come up recently and say he's gonna rent a media blaster and do it all himself. I said, great, man. Like I'll spend 30 minutes with you. Come out here. And awesome. I'll introduce him to the products. I'll introduce him to the process. I'll introduce him to some of my foremen. And a lot of times with the chinking, they call us right away and say, can you please come do this? But the other stuff, they kind of muddle their way through, I think. And, but no, it's an honor, man. It's really an honor to be in that position. It's not a nuisance to me. It's not annoying. I enjoy having that kind of influence. So.
You remind me a lot of Alex Hormozy as far as providing massive value. And again, you got a guy that's coming in that could be a customer, and you're teaching him how to do his own refinish on his log home. Like you calling 25 different places, nobody calling you back. Imagine if you'd try to reach out to have them help you figure out how to do your own house. There is no way. Not only if they're not even returning a call. So I love that you're providing value like that over and over. And again, when that guy's got some more money and is ready to hire a professional to do it, you're definitely going to be the guy he reaches out to, huh?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't just like lip service. I really try hard to reinvent the entire customer contractor relationship process. I mean, communication is where the failures occur, right? And I cannot stress enough. We can head off so many problems in contracting by just communicating with the client, by just communicating with the vendors. I mean, almost to the point where I think it can be annoying at times, but nowadays in modern times, it's videos, it's all, job site videos, job site photographs. I do reports back to client on our larger projects, our 6-figure and plus projects. And then it doesn't have to be a 6-figure project. It can be a complex project. And I'm sending them basically a PDF file, an email report. Hey, this is the progress. This is our challenges. This is the hurdles. This is why it's taking so long. This is why it's costing more. This is why we might even be done ahead of schedule. Any kind of pivots that have to be made, like we're out there, we're getting ourselves in front of those problems. And the response from our clients has been amazing. They love that. And this isn't rocket science. I didn't invent this. people deserve dignity and respect. And if they're going to spend the kind of money I'm asking them to spend and basically trust me with their, I said this earlier, that their American dream, their home, I mean, this is their baby, and it's going to get treated that way. And that's a model that it just simply works. I didn't have to pick up a book and read this. I just thought, well, what if I just communicated with clients? Holy cow, like we don't have a lot of problems now. We don't have there's no surprises. There's no, hey, I'm going to attach this dollar amount to our final invoice and go, oops, you didn't know that was coming. Like, there's none of that with me. It's straight up, if for lack of a better term, like in your face, just like explanations. Like, this is what's going on. Here's the expectations. What I call is expectation management. And this is what we can expect a week from now, 2 weeks from now. And this is how the dollar amounts will change. It's simple stuff. And I don't think a lot of contractors aren't doing that. I think they're really missing an opportunity to provide a higher level of service, a higher level of quality in just the basics, right? And we've really fine-tuned that here. We've really perfected that.
Give me your 10-second tip for a first-time log homeowner.
It's a lot of maintenance. So just, prepare yourself, and it's not cheap, right? And these things, as long as you say, there's probably going to be a lot of upfront. If you just bought a log home, there's probably going to be a lot of upfront costs to get that thing up to speed and get all the problems taken care of, because log homes are synonymous with deferred maintenance. We just get a lot of people that especially after COVID, that bought into log homes, and then, traditional home inspectors don't really know. They are not required to report on a lot of the issues with log homes. The template they follow is very standardized. And so then a log homeowner will call me sometimes before the sale, hopefully before the sale, but a lot of times after the sale, and go, hey, we think there's some problems here. And then I show up and go, yeah, you got some log rot. You got, this needs a new coating, finish, X, Y, and Z. And it's expensive. So there's a lot of costs involved with that. Now, having said that, once you take the initial hit, get this thing up to speed, it's really easy to maintain on an annual biannual basis. The problem is a lot of people weren't expecting, they just had no idea going into this thing that, what it takes to basically restore these structures. And the cost can be a little staggering. But once it's done, I mean, you're basically allowed to call it starting from zero, right? You have a clean slate, and you can maintain this thing almost indefinitely for, a couple $1,000s a year. The problem is when it gets deferred for 20 years, it's going to be a hit.
What does Pencil Log Pros do that most crews typically skip on day one?
Man, we are the quintessential. If I've got, I'm paraphrasing this. If I've got 5 hours to cut down a cherry tree, I'm going to spend 4 hours sharpening the axe, right? So, man, we are really involved and in depth with the prep work of these projects, right? We go in deep on really getting these things set up to get the surfaces prepped correctly. We spend a lot of time, making sure the project's going to go smoothly once the products start flying, almost to the point where it's a little bit over the top, but it's a system that really works for us. So.
Now, if we're getting into a little bit more of the actual log home restoration type questions, blasting or sanding, what's your typical rule of thumb to decide between the two?
Media blasting is definitely the gold standard of removing old coatings. We've done both. We've used grinders, we've hand sanded entire log cabins, but media blasting, kind of in the early years, we struggled with a bit, how to dial that in. And, at first we would blast a house and we thought, well, you have to sand it afterwards, right? And then I met a guy who I consider a mentor out in Ohio, Wayne Bell. He's actually written a book on this topic. And, I was talking to him one day and he says, oh, no, we don't ever pull out sanders. We media blast homes and they look great. And we dust them off, we get to stain. And I thought, oh, wow, there's a time savings there. So I went out and we spent some money and we got our blasting pots and our equipment really dialed in to where we can actually just take the finish off without doing a lot of damage to the log itself. That was a process that took years. I don't have any problem telling you that took years and years to master. And so we very rarely even pull out sanders anymore. It's kind of a slow boat to China, right? If logs are furred, and that's what we call them, and they're a little fuzzy on the surface from taking some damage from media blasters. But if the log, we pull out sanders. We do what we got to do, right? We need a uniform surface, right? We have a kind of a surface that I call a 60 grit surface, but it's a surface that we're looking for before we can start putting product down. So we know that way we are darn sure of what it's going to look like when we start applying that product. If you don't, if we just left that blotchy or non-systemized, right? I'm real big on systems. If we left that non-systemized, then there's no telling what the end result's going to be. And I don't like that.
Well, that's the difference between hiring a pro and hiring your local paint guy to come in and sand and restain the logs. Hiring the pro, you've had a ton of experience on what works okay and what works best. Whereas if you hire a guy down at the Home Depot, just a general laborer, probably not going to come out with the same finished result, I would assume.
No, you're right. We're definitely a niche trade, and it's a niche skill set that we have. Yeah, you could probably save a lot of money by hiring, Joe the painter or whoever, and honestly, I hire painters. That's who my average employee is, right? We go out, we find people with painting experience, and I convert them into log cabin nerds like me. And that's what I'm looking for. However, there's a process of converting them from a painter to a log cabin type that involves some different skills and a different way of looking at things, right? Through the process of getting these coatings on. So, of course, that argument is always there. However, it's really up to, it's up to the client. I mean, do you put discount tires on your Ferrari? And I don't think anybody that has a Ferrari wants to go put discount tires on it, right? But the good tires are expensive and they last long and they perform well. And so again, that's kind of my model. That's what I'm selling.
What's your go-to stain or top coated altitude and why?
I'm a huge fan of Sashco's Transformations line. And that is, they make two, oil and acrylic, right? There's two different kinds of coatings, oils and acrylics. Sashco would argue that their Capture Cascade line is tougher. And maybe there's some evidence there. And I guess you can argue that all I have is anecdotal field evidence. I'm not a chemist or a scientist, but I have a cabin at 10,000 feet outside of Ridgeway, Colorado, and I have Sashco Transformations on my cabin. I've probably had it on there for about 10 years. And yes, it is due for a recoat. However, I have basically no time to do anything because I own a business and have kids. So I'll get to it when I get to it. But I am just in love with their Transformations line of products because it has an oil look to it. I went to high school and still had wood shop. And we put oil on things in wood shop there and it looked great. I love seeing the grain on things. And I think that product, me personally, my opinion, is that product does an amazing job of highlighting the grain of wood and giving you that kind of shiny, oily finish that I think a lot of our clients are also in love with. And I think it, layered correctly, we call it the glazed donut, but it's really just it's kind of a gloss finish to it. And we want to make sure the entire cabin, not 90%, not 92%, the entire cabin has that gloss finish on it. And I think it's incredibly tough. I think it stands up well at altitude. It stands up well against snow sitting against it. I mean, I just think when it's done correctly, if it's done incorrectly, just like anything else. It's no better than a big box store product, right? But if the prep is done correctly and the layering is done correctly, it is, in my opinion, the toughest product on the market. So that's my 2 cents. I have a lot of, older clientele, and they get, having these conversations, they get a little turned off when I start using terms like acrylic. And it doesn't, I don't think it resonates as well, right? I think my average clientele is older than me, and they too have experience with oil products in their life and the heavy VOCs and all that stuff. And I think that's kind of what they want to hear almost, right? It's like, well, what are you going to put on this acrylic stuff? I don't know about that. It almost has a negative connotation to it. It's not. These are great products too. And we do about 30% of our business is probably acrylics as well. And it's just, I just tend to sell more of the oil-based products.
This interview is sponsored by Newswire magazine. We celebrate the entrepreneurs and thought leaders shaping the future. Those who don't just adapt, but innovate. Who inspire others to think bigger, lead boldly, and create lasting change. Only a select few are featured in Newswire magazine. And for those who earn a place on the cover, the opportunities are unmatched. Your story shared with a global audience. Your achievements celebrated on national billboards, reaching millions. Every leader has a story. Every vision deserves a platform. Who will rise to the top? Stay tuned. You're witnessing greatness unfold.
How do you seal checks so that they stay tight 5 winters from now?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I am not a huge fan of sealing checks, and I'll probably get some negative comments from my vendors on this one, but logs love to breathe, right? I get a lot of clients that want to spend upwards of $20,000 in just caulking a home. In places like San Miguel County, we have blower door tests, especially on remodels of new construction. So we do have to spend the time and the materials to really seal those places up. And I would say that's important, right? We don't want critters in our house. We don't want hornets, wasps, mice, especially, and so I think the money, the return on investment is great when we're trying to locate those big checks and do that. However, from the exterior, I personally do not feel that south and west facing caulking jobs, no matter how well done, no matter how trained or skilled the individual, I think in the Rocky Mountains, there's just no products out there that are going to last 5 years. I mean, there's some tough ones out there. We go through cases and cases and cases. You have to go through barrels of Sashco's log builder product every year. However, we looking for very specific checks. Like I really try to talk clients out of doing anything that is horizontal or downward facing. Just let the logs are going to get wet, whether through relative humidity, whether through that good sideways mountain rain that we get occasionally. And so let's just not, when we seal the logs completely, I think it is akin to trying to dry your wet shoes out in a Ziploc bag. The log wants to dry out, but we stop it from doing so when we cover every single check in caulk. So if you call me to have your cabin caulked completely, I'll probably talk you out of that. But we'll get the caulking done where it's needed. I'm just don't want to do the ones that are going to help that log air out and actually help it last longer.
That makes sense. Kind of a cool way to see that you're not trying to just sell everybody, but kind of guide them in the right direction for what's going to work the best.
I actually get in trouble sometimes. People think I'm trying to talk them out of product or services, and I'm not. I'm just saying I think it's not a good use of your money sometimes to try to do this.
Now, what's a common mistake or one mistake that you see that forces a full strip early?
Oh, man. Well, we just get a lot of people that are sold a paint job, a latex paint job onto a log cabin, which in my opinion is a crime. It's just a travesty. It is it's a quick road to having to redo everything. Latex paints, they're not as flexible as these modern stains. These logs are constantly moving, constantly flexing with the heat. Within their first 10 years, oftentimes within a 24-hour, basically a 24-hour, hot cold cycle with the sun. So it's just a lot of movement, a lot of expansion. And these latex products can't move with that, and they tend up. They're just not designed for logs. They seal in moisture improperly, right? So, when the log does get wet through the checks, through the relative humidity, it really can't escape. It can't breathe. with latex paints. And I have a lot of clients that call me after their log cabin's been painted 1 or 2, 3 years ago. They need it completely removed and done with a proper product for the Rocky Mountains. The other thing is just using a cheap product, right? In my opinion, there is no such thing as a one coat product out there. I'll fight that. I'll make that argument all day long. Not in the Rocky Mountains. Maybe, I don't know, maybe inland Connecticut or a different environment, but like here in the Rocky Mountains, specifically in the San Juans where I do most of our work, it's a rough environment. It's an extreme. And, I see a lot of products out there advertised as one coat. I just don't believe it. I don't buy it. I'm not convinced of it. And I've actually turned down a lot of clients over the years who want me to put on like a big box store product. I'm not saying there's not some good big box store products out there. It's just, I don't trust them. I don't have the experience with them. And if I can't put something on your house that I'm not, walk away from, and, you and I can high five, shake hands at the end of a project or whatever. And I know, like, I put the right thing on there, and it was expensive and it's a very costly product, but I'm not trying to save you a buck. At the end of the day, I'm trying to make this last. I'd love to say, hey, this is going to last 7 to 10 years, with the proper, annual maintenance to it or whatever. But, I don't want you to call me in 2 years and be like, what the heck is this thing you put on my house? And so I've actually had to turn down projects that probably would have been, lucrative gigs, but I just said, hey, I don't want anything to do with that product. And that's business. That's how it goes.
Now, give me a lesson that you learned in the Navy that you still use every week in log home rebuilding.
Lesson that I learned in the Navy. I learned a lot of lessons in the Navy. You know what? Do hard things, right? Like the obstacle is the way, whatever the hard thing is on that project. I really celebrate autonomy with my foreman, right? Like every job on a lot, this is not a bread and butter, like we're going to show up, paint a house and drive off, right? We're going to wash it, apply. Every single job, these log cabins are so different. The environments that are so different. We just run into so many unforeseen, so many problems that have to be tackled, right? I'm looking for problem solvers, right? And what I teach my foreman is like, how could it be any other way, right? It has to be this way. Every single job's going to present these new challenges. They're all difficult. They're all different. They all require thought. And we're just going to do what it takes. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, we're going to get through this problem every single time, right? And so there is no room with me for this attitude of, oh, I can't do it. What do we do now? Or, this is too hard. No, we are going to absolutely just attack this thing, and we're going to get this job done. There's never been a problem. We've done 10,000 square foot cabin. There's never been a problem we could not figure out or get past. So, it's do the hard thing. Let's do the hard thing.
I'm going to have to show our little boy this. Remington is 8 years old, and I've got him doing push-ups and pull-ups and different stuff. A lot of times when he's whining or feeling like he's kind of hit the end of his limit or whatever, I say, Remington, why are we doing this? He goes, because men do hard things. How cute.
I tell my employees, I tell everybody, I have kids too, it's like, if it's uncomfortable, if it doesn't always feel right, you're probably on the right path. You know what I mean? There's nothing in my life that I've ever done that was completely, anything in my life that I've done that was worth having, worth pursuing, has been the most uncomfortable, difficult, not want to get out of bed type of thing. And all those things in this life have been the most rewarding.
Now, talking about faith in business, name the principle that you won't bend on. Is there any one principle that you really stick to?
Yeah, honesty and trust all day long. That my employees are probably tired of me hearing me say the word trust. Everything is trust. The language of business is trust. I repeat that to myself all the time. Without trust, we got nothing. Trust with our vendors, trust with our employees, trust with my people, right? Like my business consultants, my mentors, everything's trust. And I'll go to great lengths to protect that. The other thing that I really rely heavily on is our reputation. And that goes hand in hand with trust, right? I really protect this reputation. If we have an employee that's not cutting it, if we have employees that do things with poor character, unfortunately it happens. We work in the trades, right? If we have issues with any issues at all with dishonesty, there's just no place for that here. And I make an example. I have to make an example of these individuals. We let them go right away. I've learned over the years, unfortunately, I can help people with, my life story, the problems that I've overcome, things that work for me. But what I found is I cannot fix situations of poor character, right? Individuals with poor character.
Yep.
And I think, and that's okay. That's on them to fix, right? That's on, I think, the individual to recognize and go out and make repairs themselves, as I had to do at one point in my life. If they can do that, and I'm sure they're going to, have a great life or have another career. It's just, we don't tolerate it here. Once I see the thing that I don't like, that I'm looking for in a specific individual that's going to work here, and I'm going to trust with the keys to someone's house.
Yep.
Then we move on really quickly here. We don't spend a lot of time with that.
That's one of the things we did a lot with when I owned retail stores. Was I'd figure out, if you let an employee, doesn't matter how bad they needed the job, if they had poor character, almost, I would say without exception, you'd let somebody that you knew shouldn't be there, shouldn't be around the team because they're dragging everybody down. But if you didn't get rid of them in time, pretty soon you'd lose not only that one employee, but you're losing 3 or 4, maybe some good folks that just got kind of dragged down the wrong path. How do you build men who lead when you're not around?
Well, leadership, in my opinion, is, there's 2 things that come to mind when I think of like the most difficult things in life, right? It's relationships, and personal relationships, and leadership, right? There's like the 2 toughest things to grapple with, right? And I think if you're doing it right, you never really find the answers, right? You're just kind of always in pursuit of the answers. And so, the question being is, how do I, first of all, I look for men of good character, right? For women too. One of my best for is a female. And I'm constantly looking for the little nuanced things in them that say, hey, you know what? I'm the kind of person that's going to do the right thing when no one's watching, right? Like I'm the kind of person that's going to buy into this vision and this goal and get on board. But really, honestly, I'm looking for selflessness, right? Like someone that can think beyond themselves, someone that can see the bigger picture, someone that's not, it's just the world isn't me anymore, right? Like they get to a certain level of maturity and they go, wow, it's not really all about me. I'm a part of something, or I could be a part of something, or there's things out there that are greater than myself, right? When I find those things, then I tend to put those people in positions of leadership. And then there's a whole pipeline of, working with me. There's a lot of oversight, a lot of phone calls that might seem kind of benign to the employee, but I'm always kind of, they know this, I'm always kind of poking and prodding a little bit, seeing where their head's at. I can handle poor decisions in my leaders. However, what I will not deal with is poor decision-making that isn't sound, right? So we can make a bad choice. Okay, well, why did you make that choice? Let's hear it, And as long as their thought process was intact, and like, okay, I can see where their heart was at, where their mind was at with that one. Yeah. And I can live with that, and we can grow. If the decision-making process is just so far off the rails, where it's just like, what the hell's going on there? Then we start to kind of, let's start to look at people a little differently, and maybe they aren't fit for leadership. It's tough though. It's tough. It's at some point the individual has to take the reins and go.
Now, in the first 30 days for a new hire, what happens?
They get hired, they're handed a new employee packet, and it's basically a series of checklists that they have to hit in order to make their first raise. So we kind of dangle that carrot of give you a raise. But honestly, all we're looking for, you don't have to be. No one knows how to work on log cabins, so we're not necessarily looking for anything like that. We're just looking for a good human being, right? And I make that very clear when I hire them. It's like, hey, I'm just looking for somebody I can hang out with for 24 hours. Somebody that can take a joke, somebody that can give a joke, take a little ribbing or whatever, give it and laugh a little bit and smile along the way. And someone who can this is hard work. What we're doing is hard work. You're into sweating and, getting after it. And this is very difficult work. And I'm looking for people that, can kind of, it's not even like that enjoy that. Right. It's almost a little bit of, I was going to say a sick way, but it's not really sick. It's just like, I like getting dirty. I like going to bed at night feeling like I accomplished things. So they get that new hire packet and they're on probation for 90 days. And we're just looking for good habits, good traits that don't have nothing to do with log cabins, right? Like just, are you getting along with the crew? Are you standoffish? Are you the guy that knows everything and can't be taught anything? And do you jive well with your foreman and all those kind of things like that? So it's really just a human expectation more than it is a skills expectation. We'll get to the skills part, but like right now I want to know that you're just a good person.
When I used to own all the retail stores, we started originally trying to hire the smartest, sharpest kids that worked on technology and stuff, and figured out most of those kids, they may have been really good repairing a computer or working on a cell phone, but had no people skills or just didn't like people. It wasn't that their people skills weren't great. It was just they didn't like you. And so to try to teach a kid, teach a young man to be a good person was impossible. We figured out later, if I'd hire people who love people, love helping people, just always want the best for the customer, no matter what, then it was easy to teach them the skills to help them serve them the best product and the best service. But I'm seeing that a lot with you as well. Just probably one of the reasons why you're the top log home restoration company in the country here.
That may be because it's really like I'm inviting them to be part of a family, right? And there's a group chat. We have a group chat constantly going, and we're constantly jiving and putting memes up or funny stuff, or maybe I'll put out some very serious information or some motivational stuff, and kind of an open door policy where they can come talk to me anytime, and we could talk about things like addiction. We can talk about life problems, relationships, any of these things, man. I'm an open book with my history and my past and the troubles that I've had. And I needed to feel like they're a part of this. Their voice is important. I care that they're here. They're not just a guy that's showing up to work. I mean, it might take a minute to get there, but eventually, like, I want them to feel like they're a part of this family and that they count. But if you don't have that, I don't know that you have a company. Because if your people aren't bought into what you're doing, to the vision, to the mission, why would they provide quality? Why would they provide an excellent finished product if there's nothing to believe in? So I would like to think, at least fractionally, I'm providing some degree of purpose. Let's get out of bed and go do something awesome today. And I'm huge on that. And I'm sending them out to work at these most beautiful locations on planet Earth, as far as I'm concerned. The San Juan Mountains down by Telluride and Aspen and Vail, all these beautiful places in parts of Colorado no one's even heard of that are just mind-blowing. $1 billion ranches, it's incredible things. I think they get it, and that's important to me, and if they don't get it, they probably shouldn't have a job where you're in the outdoors, you're in the mountains, and you're doing, you're doing mountain stuff all day.
We talked before about brands that are asking you to be the face of their ads or be the front man. What is the field test that a product must pass to earn your name on camera?
It's got to be tough, man. I just want tough stuff, right? It's got, yes, obviously there's an aesthetic component, and I get clients that really just care about the aesthetic, but really it's like, this stuff is so expensive, right? The whole process, the whole thing, and I want to make sure you're getting a good return on your investment here, right? If this stuff's not going to last, and I've put products on before where I'm getting a call a year later, and I'm going back to do it for free now, but like it's stuff's falling off in the rock. That Rocky Mountain sun is brutal. That wind is brutal. That snow, that rain, the temperature extremes is just, it's got to be some of the toughest stuff on earth. And if what I'm putting on your house ain't gonna hold up, man, you're not gonna trust me, right? So it's like I'm attaching my reputation, my name, everything that I built to these products, right? And so it's got to be like a symbiotic relationship, and they're, in return, they're attaching their products to me, and it's got to be a good fit. And it took a minute to kind of figure this out in the beginning, but we've got it now. I've got products I trust. I've got a system I'm using, and it works. And we don't have a lot of negative, we don't get a lot of negative feedback. We've really got this thing dialed in. A lot of late nights, early mornings, and a lot of, sweating it out in the early days. But we got it. I'm confident we have it figured out.
What's one habit that keeps you strong, sharp every day?
Oh, I got a couple now that I'm getting a little older. Okay. So I really I used to be with the military, and I used to be like a 4 a.m. guy, right? I'm getting up at 4 a.m., getting up at 4 a.m. Well, I've kind of traded that in lately this past year at least, and I'm sleeping 8 hours a night. And I got to tell you, Curtis, I feel amazing. Like, holy cow. I was really beat up there for a few, me, my workout schedule is pretty extreme, and my work schedule is extreme. I'm always on the road. I'm always on calls. I'm always dealing with clients and stuff and employees. And, I'm definitely the quintessential type A, 200 miles an hour type guy. And getting 8 hours of sleep, I used to kind of think that was that was
Weak.
soft or something, right? Like, you can't get, you got to get up at 4, you got to get up at 5. And I still get up at 5 quite a bit, but the 4 a.m.s I think are behind me, and I'm clearer. My head is clear. Everything works better when I get more sleep. I recover from sickness faster, muscle sore, all that. So 8 hours of sleep's been a big one. I work out. I definitely, even when I'm on the road, I work out at least 3 to 4 times a week. That used to be every day. I just couldn't really hold that pace as much anymore, but I feel great leaving the gym. Something else about me, I think I don't drink alcohol anymore. I gave up alcohol about 3 years ago. For my military guys out there watching, we pick up some bad habits along the way. And in the military, drinking is culture. I know it's culture in our society, but in the military, it's a piece of our culture, especially special forces. And I gave up drinking. Wow, what an amazing positive difference that has made in my life. Everything. I feel younger, stronger, smarter, faster. Just, it really opened the doors to my mind. I know that might sound a little corny or something, but like you talk about getting on the path, right? And then seeing the opportunities once you've gotten on the path, And for me, that's what it's all about. I was just kind of walking around in a fog most of my life. And, just freeing myself from alcohol, even casually, just really man, there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity. There's a different way to look at things. It's almost, for lack of a better explanation, kind of this magical, weird superpower. To be in a room full of people drinking and have absolutely no desire anymore to pick up a drink or what. I don't have to. I don't need. I'm happy.
So
I'm smiling.
alcohol is basically the opposite for productivity or muscle building, or whatever.
It's a drag on. I feel like that's a great word, productivity, right? I love that word. I feel like it's a drag on productivity. It's the antithesis of productivity. Being hungover your whole life is not productive. We think it is because we've been doing it so long. We're in this program where it's like, well, it's the weekend, so I drink too much on the weekend, and now, by Wednesday I'll feel better. Oh man, if I could give one piece of advice to any, these younger guys out there, just trying to step up and be successful and start their companies or whatever, clear your mind. Just like step away from this cultural trap. Just do it for 30 days. If you can, do it for 30 days. Do it for a week. And just see, just step back and just witness the changes that come organically right into your life. All positive. I don't have to pick up a phone anymore and ever call you by and apologize for something silly I said the night before or did or whatever. So anyways, but a little nuance of my life, it's really just been a huge, huge changing factor.
And that's a good example for your men too, for the guys who are working with you. And I mean, trades are huge on alcohol, and it's kind of a cool thing to see. The boss, the big man, is abstaining. I got 2 more questions for you. I know you're running short on time here. For buyers walking a 1990s log home this weekend, what are 3 red flags to watch out for?
Wood rot at the base of the structure. It's almost always on your north and your east sides, but it could be anywhere. So the lower courses of logs will sometimes just have rot, and rot is just soft wood. Could be a big deal. Could be nothing. Could be just something that's a little like a Band-Aid type job with epoxy or something. But so side note on that is, before you buy a log cabin, you want to reach out to a guy like me. You can Google and find some in your area, but you want to talk to somebody who works on log homes, because a home inspector, a traditional home inspector, is not required to cue on or report to a lot of these log home specific niche problems. Another red flag is just logs that have not been cared for, meaning they're just gray and look awful. Again, that may be nothing. It could be a huge problem, depending on what you expect this cabin to look like. Like, if you bought a car that was older, classic car that was all rusted out, you're okay with that. It's going to run fine. But if you have an expectation of what you want this place to look like, if this is your dream and your vision, then, we need to nail that down and assign a cost to that vision and what that might look like, because it can be expensive. The third red flag is, I would say, just signs of water damage, right? Signs. People come to me and they go, "Well, you have my log home." And the first thing I go is, what shape is your roof in? Because the roof is kind of the the protective mechanism of the entire cabin. I will turn down a job and tell you to go fix your roof and then call me, right? So if that roof is in disrepair, if you're seeing signs of water damage on way up high where it shouldn't be, that's your soffit, that's your fascia, that's inside, it's on your walls. Then you got to have that roof looked at, because it doesn't matter what I do. If you don't fix that roof, your problems are never going to stop. And it's just going to be an ongoing war and a money pit. So you got to take a very good, hard look at that roof. And if that means pulling in a professional roofer to inspect it, we'll even do that for you too, and offer a professional opinion on the roof. And that, which is, you'd think that would be, anti to what I'm trying to do, right? Because I'm trying to sell you my project, my gig, but it's honestly, you're wasting your money, your time. If that roof it needs to be replaced, or some damage needs to be fixed. So I'll always point you in that direction. So huge red flag if you're seeing those things.
Now, what's next for Pencil Log Pros as far as regions, services, partnerships? What do you have on the map?
A lot. We've added decks to the menu. We have an entire crew basically assigned to decks. So that's, substructure, that's complete repair, that's composite, or even just traditional wood type decks. So, and we're also doing a lot more structural repair. We do a lot of work on commercial structures as well. So commercial grade sealants, a lot of work with ski resorts and that sort of thing. And what we call ornamental logs, right? Which is these logs that don't really serve a purpose other than aesthetic. You'll see them kind of all over Colorado, all over these mountain towns where, they just attached a lot of these logs to their structures, just for visual value, probably in the late 90s, early 2000s. And we do a lot of replacement, repair, that kind of thing.
Now, if you're watching this right now and you either have a log home or you're looking to buy one, you want to get in contact with Brad here. If you're watching this on Amazon Fire TV, pause the show, scroll down. There'll be a link to the Newswire magazine article. We'll have a call to action at the bottom where you can schedule a meeting or a consultation or a call with Brad and get something set up there. What's a final thought today for somebody watching this that's interested in the log home?
To reiterate, just make sure you talk to someone that's a professional in that niche. I mean, these are huge investments, and they're in very difficult, violent, remote places. And it can't be understated that, you should know what you're getting into when you purchase one of these. I mean, they are just absolutely the most beautiful structures. They are just so cool to own. I am blessed and fortunate enough to own my own log cabin. And man, I just absolutely, there's nothing like being up there, right? It's like people are like, what's your hobby? I'm like, being in my log cabin. Like, that's really, like, it's that enjoyable. It's that cool of a thing. And so if you're fortunate enough to have one of these things, really take the time, before you buy one, or when you start noticing problems with the one you already own, to just really get out and do your research and find somebody that takes pride and really understands this process, and what's involved with log cabin restoration, and even the niche of anything log cabins. Don't just entrust that home to anybody. Then spend the time to find the right person, and that's going to pay itself back tenfold. So that'd be my piece of advice. God bless.
Thanks for watching Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. This episode was designed to help you level up. See you next time.